Hi there. Thank you for joining me for today's live reading of Heaven Only Knows by Laurie Lewis, and this is presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Chapter 1. Barrett Brockbank held his breath as the verdict was read. The jury finds for the plaintiffs. Cheers erupted and news cameras flashed in the courtroom as reporters ran out to share the scoop about the long-awaited verdict. Pride swelled in Barrett as lead counsel, Marcia Ziegler, and her assistant were swallowed up by their grateful clients. It didn't matter to him that the glory was thinner in the seats he and his associate, Cynthia Chow, occupied. Though the two research attorneys' part in the prestigious New York law firm's win was considerably less exciting, the weeks he and Cynthia spent in New Orleans digging through local records had paid off, contributing to today's win for their clients. Work was his life. Aside from his parents and six brothers far away in Utah, he had no family of his own or even a girlfriend competing for his time. As pitiful as that seemed sometimes, he knew his lack of attachments freed him to throw his heart and soul into his work, like helping the families of the Louisiana chemical plant workers injured in a fire get the financial restitution they deserved. Barrett was proud of his part in the decision. His work on the class action suit against Blue Point Chemical had consumed most of his 2-year internship with the New York law firm. The case and his time with the firm were about to conclude, and the next, yet undetermined chapter in his career was about to begin. Marcia Ziegler, a partner in the firm Bernstein and Carruthers, leaned over the barrier to extend her hand to Barrett and then to Cynthia. The 50-ish woman's uncharacteristic smile was radiant with satisfaction, and her lumpy cheeks nearly slid into her eyes, crinkling them into slits. You two did great work on this case. The research you both conducted was very useful, but Barrett, your examination of Louisiana's worker protection laws was critical. You identified Blue Point's safety shortcomings. That information was invaluable to today's win. Barrett felt his neck prickle over the praise. He was just an inconsequential intern in a big city law firm, but he'd made a difference and helped right a wrong. Marcia had said so. Before he had a chance to thank his boss, he felt his petite coworker jab her elbow into his hip, as if in a petition to be included in the praise being lavished upon him. He stepped back, made an opening for Cynthia Chow to step into the limelight, and said, "Thank you, Marcia. Cynthia and I are honored to have played a small part." A sarcastic laugh escaped Marcia's lips, and she shook her head. "Ever the gentleman, Barrett, but you do know that she'd cut your head off if she thought it would advance her career, don't you? That's the kind of drive a great corporate attorney needs." Barrett glanced Cynthia's way, noticing that his friend and partner offered no rebuttal to Marcia's brutal assessment. The competitiveness and brutality of big stakes corporate law was something he'd need to consider when weighing the career choices lying before him. "All right, both of you, join the team outside for the press briefing. Good work deserves to be recognized and rewarded." She moved toward the door before turning back to Barrett. "Bask in the satisfaction of this victory and the lives you've changed because of your work with Bernstein and Carruthers. Then, on the flight back to New York this afternoon, ask yourself if drawing up contracts for your family's mining business in Utah could ever be as satisfying." He'd asked himself the same question 100 times since getting the prestigious internship. When he applied, he was simply seeking a chance to measure his legal skills against the best of his peers, so no one could question why he'd been offered the lead counsel job at his family's Silver Buckle Mining Corporation. But now? The bright sun sliced through the opening as the door swung wide to the courthouse's front portico. Barrett shielded his eyes as he adjusted to the light, and then he saw the circus of news people standing amidst a crowd of locals who'd been awaiting the final verdict. Questions were being hurled at Marcia as she moved down 2 steps to deliver a prepared statement into a dozen mics and TV cameras. Positioned on the top level with the rest of the team, Barrett became uncomfortably aware of his 6 feet 2 inches. The women were all considerably shorter than he was, and the only other male was also well under 6 feet. He took a deep breath and tried to focus his attention on Marcia's statement. A young, dark-complected girl wearing a baseball cap and a sports t-shirt made her way down the sidewalk toward the courthouse. She struggled to push a grocery cart, laden with cases of water bottles and other items. Each time he glanced her way, she was passing bottled water or some food item to a city worker or a homeless person. Barrett noted how each person greeted her as if she were an old friend. As Marcia's speech concluded, she issued her promise that the case wouldn't be finished until each plaintiff had received compensation for their injuries. Those words lit a fire in the young girl, who parked her heavy cart and beelined for the crowd, which parted before her as if she were Moses. When she reached the front, a few things became evident. First, she was not a child, but an attractive, tiny young woman, and second, she had not come merely to listen. "Excuse me," she yelled to Marcia as the tiny woman waved a hand in the air. "I think we'd all like to hear some specifics about that." The other locals in the crowd nodded and voiced their assent. "Lou's right," one said. "Injured folks have been waiting a long time," another spectator yelled. "Too long," a third added. The diminutive woman's social and political clout had increased exponentially in the ensuing moments. Marcia pointed to the woman. "Are you a claimant or the family member of a claimant?" The tiny woman named Lou jutted her chin forward and said in a unique voice shaded with multiple accents, "We're all neighbors. We look out for each other. That makes us family." The crowd gave a collective assent. Reporters leaned closer and the camera zoomed in as everyone, including the legal team, awaited Marcia's reply. Marcia clenched and unclenched her hands, actions Barrett had come to recognize as signs that her stress level was increasing. She looked back at her colleagues and her eyes locked on Barrett and then on Cynthia. Relief passed over her face before she waved the two interns forward and turned back toward the crowd. "We're leaving two of our finest here in New Orleans. They'll personally meet with each claimant, and they'll stay until every one of them has what they need from us." Shock and panic sizzled through Barrett over the news as he descended the steps to where Marcia stood. Cynthia, however, appeared to grow 2 inches during the announcement. She stood ramrod straight beside Marcia, soaking up her moment of fame. The young woman named Lou placed her hand on her hips as she eyed the designated pair of dark-suited legal saviors. Barrett felt her disdain. Worse yet, Marcia turned to the pair and said, "Why don't you two introduce yourselves?" Cynthia slipped to the mic and touched her black, tight bun as if to be sure not a hair was out of place. "I'm Cynthia Chow. My specialty is contract law. I'm delighted to be assigned to close this case for Bernstein and Carruthers." She finished by turning toward a camera and offering a dazzling smile. Barrett felt a displeased chill come over the crowd as they stood in the 90-degree New Orleans heat, listening to these New Yorkers' promises. He had a good idea of what they were waiting to hear, so he stepped forward and hunched to draw near the mic, keeping his eyes primarily fixed in the woman named Lou. "I'm Barrett Brockbank, but just call me Barrett. I've been moved by what your community has suffered because of the chemical plant disaster. The loss to the injured is immeasurable, but I know the entire community has been affected economically and personally. It's clear how much you care about your neighbors. We're here to help, and we'll be here until every claim is signed and every check is deposited." A contented hum of encouraged voices filled the previous silence void. Marcia returned to the mic to thank the jury and the community, and then she concluded the presser. Security guards urged the crowd along, but Barrett caught a final glimpse of Lou, who was looking back over her shoulder at him as if to assess whether the concern he'd expressed was just a line or if he meant it. He tipped a finger to his head and waved it Lou's way in a friendly salute. Lou was slow to respond, but after a few moments she raised her right eyebrow in what felt like a show of skepticism. "You want me to put up or shut up?" Barrett thought to himself. "You don't believe a word I said." "Any questions?" Marcia asked. Barrett huffed, "A few." "I, for one, am so excited," Cynthia gushed. "Thanks for the opportunity, Marcia. We won't let you down." "I have complete confidence in you two." She turned to Barrett again. "You're the lead on this assignment. Get this done well, and you'll have a bright future with Bernstein and Carruthers. The board is already prepared to offer you a permanent position as an associate." Barrett hadn't dared consider such an opportunity. "Thank you. And Cynthia? She was my research partner." Marcia glanced at his beautiful Asian counterpart and smiled. "Cynthia is ambitious and brilliant. Her time will come, but at least she knows what she wants. Do you?" Barrett felt torn between expectations from the firm and from his family. Marcia carried on without waiting for his answer. "Cynthia is only a first-year intern. This day is yours, Barrett. Don't throw it away. I'm taking the senior staff back to New York tonight, but I'm extending your assignments here in New Orleans for 2 more weeks. I want you to personally meet with each family receiving a settlement. You know how badly some of them have suffered. help make that settlement work for them. Got it, Barrett replied. The media had effectively spread the word of the decision in the 10 minutes since the verdict was read. Barrett understood that a stellar win for their clients was also good for the firm. As a result, Marcia's phone was blowing up with congratulatory calls and texts from potential new clients. She handed her phone to her co-counsel, who took the first call while she delivered some final advice. Barrett, I don't want any loose ends left here in Louisiana when you return to New York. Understood. Totally, Cynthia chimed in. Good. And Cynthia, see if you can help this guy relax a little so he doesn't burn out. Cynthia gave Marcia a little salute. You can count on me. Barrett, Marcia continued, consider those extra days in a luxury suite in this entertainment mecca one of the perks that come with a career opportunity like the one we're extending to you. We'll expect your decision when you return to New York, either to pack your apartment for a move back to Utah or to move into your new office. I understand. She offered the two a final smile and headed for her waiting car, leaving Barrett more confused than ever about his future. As much as he'd always dreamed of building a home and raising a family on the remote Brockbank family ranch deep in Utah, his time in New York and at Bernstein and Carruthers, with its high-profile cases, had been exciting and fulfilling. His family ran an ethical, environmentally conscious operation with happy employees, many of whom had children working there as well. There might be an occasional lawsuit or dispute, but he couldn't imagine that any legal work at the Silver Buckle would be as professionally satisfying as the work he'd done for the firm. Cynthia waited until Marcia was out of earshot before she turned to Barrett and said, Well, 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 it appears I'm the lead on the Get Barrett to Loosen Up project. Barrett picked up his briefcase. I don't believe there's an adequate evidence to support the premise that I need to loosen up. She laughed out loud, drawing the attention of a court reporter. That statement alone is all the proof either of us needs. We won the case and Marcia's gone. Live a little. Shh, Barrett scolded her, even as his eyes belied his own humor. Stay professional. We got the judgment we wanted, but we still have to work with these people. How can a great-looking, under-30 guy like you be more uptight than me? We won, Barrett. Take the win. She reached up and pulled at the knot of his tie. Loosen that Brooks Brothers noose and undo the top button of your custom-designed straitjacket. The judicial process will survive. I promise. Her caricature of him felt uncomfortably accurate. I'll relax tomorrow. I have documents to file tonight. You have until 5, Barrett, and then we're going to soak up some color, some local color. Head back to the hotel and I'll text you with a plan in a few hours.